Good morning, penguins and puffins. Mr. Walker here again. I'm going to read you chapter 2 of The Firework-Maker's Daughter. If you haven't seen chapter 1 yet, that's fine. It's on our YouTube channel. So just click onto that link, and I put the link onto Teams and Twitter if you'd like to listen to a story. So far, those of you who listened to chapter 1, in our story we've got our girl, who is called Lila, and she wants to be a firework maker. And her dad is a trained firework maker, but doesn't really want her to be one. He wants her to just get married. So that's the sort of start of our story. And she's got a friend who sort of tricked the dad into maybe revealing the secret of how to become a firework maker. So we'll carry on with the story from chapter 2. Next morning, while Latchland was at the paper merchant's buying some cardboard tubes, Lila went to the elephant house to see Shulak. When she heard that Latchland had told him, she was furious. Mount Merapani, Razvani, the royal sofa, and he wasn't going to tell me? Oh, I'll never forgive him. Because the dad has shared the secrets with a friend and not with her. Oh, that's a bit drastic, said Shulak, who was busy making the elephant ready for his new job. He's only thinking of you. It's dangerous after all. You wouldn't catch me going up there. Huh, she said. It's all right to let me make golden sneezes and Java lights, I suppose, little baby things, but not to let me become a real firework maker. He wants me to stay a child forever. Well, I'm not going to, Shulak. I've had enough. I'm going to Mount Merapani, and I'm going to bring back the royal sulphur, and I'll set up as a firework maker on my own and put my father out of business. You see if I don't. No, wait, you ought to talk to him. But Lila wouldn't listen. She ran straight home, packed a little food to eat and a blanket and a few bronze coins, and left a note on the workshop bench. Dear Father, I have completed my apprenticeship. Thank you for all you have taught me. I am going to seek the royal sulphur from Razvani, the fire fiend, and I shall probably not see you again. Your ex-daughter, Lila. Wow, what a letter to receive. The dad's going to be, worried, I would have thought. Then she thought she should take something to show Razvani her skill and packed a few self-igniting crackle dragons. One of the last things she had invented was a new way of setting them off. You just had to pull a string instead of setting light to them, because the string was soaked with a solution of fire crystals. She put 3 of them in a bag, took one last look around the workshop, and slipped away. When Latchland came back and found her note, he read it with horror. Oh, Lila, you don't know what you're doing, he cried and ran out of the alley. Have you seen Lila? He asked the fried prawn seller. She went off in that direction about half an hour ago. Oh, she had a bundle on her back, added the batik painter. Looked as if she were going on a journey. Latchland hurried after her at once, but he was an old man with a weak heart, and he couldn't run fast, and the streets were crowded. Rickshaw drivers jostled with bullock carts. A caravan of silk traders was pushing its way through the market, and in the Grand Boulevard, a procession was going past. The crowd was so thick that Latchland couldn't move any further. The reason for all the excitement was that the white elephant was being led to his new owner. If you remember the white elephant bit, they would send it to the new owner, and because the white elephant needed so much Turkish delight and gold leaf, it would put that person out of business, out of money, even though we found out the elephant doesn't really like those things. Shulak was leading Hamlet at the head of the procession, and with them came musicians playing bamboo flutes and banging teak drums, and dancers swaying and snapping their fingernails, and a troop of servants with tape measures, ready to measure Hamlet's new home for the silk curtains, oh yes, the silk curtains, and velvet carpets the owners would have to buy. Flags flapped and banners waved in the sunlight, and the white elephant shone like a snowy mountain. Latchland forced his way through the crowd to Shulak's side. Did you tell Lila about Razvani and the royal sulphur? He panted. Course! You should have told her yourself. Why? Because she's gone, you wretch. She's gone off by herself to Mount Merapani, and she doesn't know the rest of the secret. Is there more? Of course there is, said Latchland, struggling to keep up. No one can go into the fire fiend's grotto without protection. She needs a flask of magic water from the goddess of the Emerald Lake. Otherwise, she'll perish in the flames. Oh, Shulak, what have you done? Shulak gulped. They were nearly at the house of the white elephant's new owner, and they had to slow down to allow all the dancers and musicians and flag bearers to get through the gate first and form 2 lines for the white elephant to walk between. Then Hamlet whispered, just loud enough for Shulak to hear, "Oh, Finder, help me get away tonight, Shulak, and we'll go and take Lila the magic water." "Oh, good idea," whispered Shulak, beaming. "Just what I was going to suggest." He turned to Lachlan and said, "Listen, I've got a proposition," which is a bit like a deal. "Me and Hamlet will find her. We'll get out tonight. Emerald Lake, Goddess, Magic Water, Mount Marapani, nothing to it." Then Shulak turned to the servants. "Mind out the way," he called. "We've got to get him round the corner. Dear, dear, what a narrow gate. That'll have to come down. And what's this? Gravel? You want the white elephant to walk on gravel? Fetch a carpet at once. A red one. Go on, hurry." And you can see in the picture all the musicians and flag bearers procession, and there at the front you've got the white elephant and Shulak. He clapped his hands and the servants bowed and scampered away. In the background, the new owner was tearing his hair out. Shulak whispered to Lachlan once more, "Don't worry, we'll get away tonight. All we need is a tarpaulin." "A tarpaulin? Whatever for?" "No time to explain now. Just bring one to the gate tonight." And Lachlan had to make do with that. He went back to the workshop feeling very heavy-hearted. All this while, Lila had been making her way through the jungle towards the sacred volcano. Mount Marapani lay far to the north, and she had never seen it until, late that afternoon, she came to a bend in the jungle path and found herself beside the river. The size of the great mountain made her gasp. It was far away on the very edge of the world, but even so, it reached halfway up to the sky, with the bare sides rising in a perfect cone to the glowing crater at the top. From time to time, the fire spirits who lived there rumbled angrily underground and threw boiling rocks high into the air. A plume of eternal smoke drifted from the summit to join the clouds. How can I ever get there, she wondered, and felt her heart quail. But she had chosen to make the journey, and she could hardly turn back when she barely even begun. She shifted her bundle from one shoulder to the other and walked on. The jungle was a noisy place. Monkeys gibbered in the trees and parrots screeched, and crocodiles snapped their jaws in the river. Sounds a bit like the rainforest work you've been hearing, I think. Every so often, Lila had to step carefully over a snake sleeping in the sun, and once she heard the roar of a mighty tiger. There was no one to be seen except some fishermen rowing their boat across from the other side of the river. She stopped and watched as they brought their boat in towards the bank where she was standing. They weren't making very good progress. There were 6 or 7 of them, and all their oars were getting in each other's way. As she watched, one of the fishermen missed the water completely with his oar, which swung round and clumped another fisherman on the head. That fisherman turned around and punched the first one, who fell off his seat with a squeal and dropped the oar in the water. One of the others tried to grab it, but instead he fell out of the boat, which rocked so violently that the others all cried out in alarm and grabbed the sides. Chaos. The man who'd fallen out was splashing and spluttering as he tried to climb back into the boat, and all the crocodiles, basking in the shallows, looked up, interested. Lila caught her breath in alarm, but the fisherman was so helpless that she could hardly stop herself from laughing, because when the man in the water leaned over the gunwale, all the men in the boat leaned over to that side to help him, and the boat tipped over so far that they nearly fell in two. They suddenly realised what was happening and let go. Then the boat tipped back the other way, and they all fell on their backs. And the crocodiles slid off the sandbank and began to swim towards them. "Oh, pull him up, you stupid creatures," Lila cried. "Over the end, not over the side." One of the fishermen heard her and hauled the man over the stern to lie in the bottom, flopping and gasping like a fish. Meanwhile, the boat had drifted into the side, and Lila put out a hand to stop it bumping. As soon as they saw her, the fishermen nudged one another. "Oh, look," said one. "Go on," muttered one of them. "You ask her." "No, it was your idea. You do it." "It wasn't me, it was Chang." Oh, and you can see another super picture here. You've got the fisherman in the boat all going crazy. I think that's the mountain in the background probably. And then you've got the crocodile. Two crocodiles starting to head towards the fisherman. Well, he can't say anything. He's still full of water. Finally, one of them snorted with impatience and stood up, making the boat rock alarmingly. He was the stoutest man in the boat, and by far the most impressive, for he wore an ostrich plume nodding in his turban and an almost black moustache and a tartan sarong, which is a bit like a dress. "Miss," he said, "would I be correct in supposing that you were hoping to cross this river?" "Well, as a matter of fact, I was," said Lila. He tapped his fingertips together with pleasure. "And would I also be correct in supposing that you have little money?" "A little, yes," said Lila. "Could you take me across? I'll pay you." "Look no further," he said proudly. "Rambashi's river taxi is at your service. I am Rambashi. Welcome aboard." Lila wasn't sure why a river taxi should have the name The Murderer painted on the bow. Nor why Rambashi should be wearing no less than 3 daggers in his belt, one straight, one curved, and one wavy. However, there was no other way to cross the river, and she stepped aboard, trying to avoid the man who'd been saved from drowning, who was still lying dripping at the bottom of the boat. The others took no notice of him at all, but rested their feet on him, as if he were a roll of carpet. "Cast off, brave lads!" cried Rambashi. Lila sat in the prow and held the side apprehensively, as the murderer swayed out into the current. Behind her she could hear the clash of oars as the blades banged together, the cries of pain as one man's handle struck another man's back, and the groaning and cursing as the half-drowned man tried to regain his seat. But she didn't take much notice, because there was plenty to look at on the water. There were dragonflies and hummingbirds and a family of ducks out for an afternoon cruise, and crocodiles practicing looking like logs, and all sorts of things. But presently she noticed that the rowers had stopped talking, and the boat wasn't rocking unsteadily as it had been when they were rowing. In fact, it was drifting, and the oarsmen weren't entirely silent either. She could hear whispers. "You tell her." "No, I don't want to. Your turn." "You've got to. You said you would." "Let Chang do it. It's about time he did something." "He's not fierce enough. You do it." Lila turned around. "Oh, for goodness sake," she said. "What are you—" But she didn't finish the sentence, because of the sight that met her eyes. All the rowers had put down their oars, which were sticking out in all directions, and each rower had tied a handkerchief over his nose and mouth, and they were all holding daggers. Rambashi was holding 2. They all jumped slightly when she turned round. Then they looked at Rambashi. "Yes," he said. "Fooled you, ha-ha. This isn't a river taxi at all. We are pirates. The fiercest pirates on the whole river. We'd cut your throat as soon as look at you." "And drink your blood," one whispered. "Oh yes, and drink your blood, all of it. Hand over your money. Come on." He waved his dagger so vigorously that the boat rocked and he nearly fell out. Lila almost laughed. "Pay up," said Rambashi. "You're captured. Your money or your life. I warn you, we're desperate men." And again, you got a nice illustration of a Rambashi at the front with his 2 daggers, and the other pirates behind, threatening poor Lila, but kind of in a funny way. They don't seem that scary. Oh, there we go, and that's the end of chapter 2. So we've got Lila in a bit of a predicament there, on her way to the mountain, and the dad, Shulak, and the elephant sort of plotting to try and, save her because she doesn't know what she's walking into. So, hope you enjoyed that story. We'll come back with chapter 3. They're quite long chapters. I think there's only about 7 or 8 in the book, so we're a little bit through now. So, hope you're having a nice half term. See you tomorrow.